at one point, someone said something and I was like, oh, Dan likes that. And they were like, who is Dan? And someone across the room was like, it's Cora's boyfriend.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome to the Educated Guest Podcast with me, Dr. Dan O'Hare.
And me, Dr. Cora Sargeant.
Where two educational psychologists reveal how little they really know.
Each episode will discuss and reflect on topics or issues in education, psychology, or society, puzzling our way through and no doubt demonstrating just what we don't know.
But along the way, we'll welcome some educated guests who can shed light on some of the complexities we'll reflect on. Welcome to the Educated Guest Podcast. New Year's Eve today, so Happy New Year to all our listeners as well. I think this is you will be listening to this some point, right, kind of first or second week of January. So Happy New Year. Hope you had a great time. What was your festive time like? My festive time was just full of cold. How was yours?
I know. Dear listener, Dan sent me a voice memo on Christmas and he sounded very unwell. I can tell you right here, Dan did not sound well.
And we all know, all the listeners know how bloody much I love Christmas. So I'd avoided it all. 23rd, I'd done a yoga on like the Sunday, then a body combat, then a yoga, then a swim, and I was just reading. And then Christmas Eve, I was like, oh no, I'm not well.
It's so bad.
So
it sounded pretty
sad.
bad as well. Like that was coming on at like almost the perfect time to spoil Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
I could hear it.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. So yeah, I cooked Christmas dinner. That was nice. But the most important thing for a roast is all the trimmings, right? Like that is the key. The roast potatoes, the maple parsnips, the stuffing.
Maple parsnips sounds so good.
Have you not done that?
Oh my God.
Never? Oh, okay. Just chop your parsnips up into the little battens, then put them in a little oven-proof dish. Big glug of olive oil over it. Bigger glug of maple syrup. Put them in the oven. 35, 40 minutes later. Oh, maple parsnips.
That sounds really, really good.
Very good.
Yeah. So Dan, what kind of cool stuff have you got coming up? Anything interesting in the next couple of weeks you got planned?
Yes. Oh, yeah. So one of the things there's a group of EPs, EPMC, Educational Psychologists for Material Change. They are hosting on the 9th of January what they're calling a community learning day. I mean, it looks. I'm not just saying it looks amazing because I'm talking there.
You are talking at it, right? Yes,
I am talking there. I am talking there. I'm going to talk about. I guess like what the welfare system takes from children and families.
Gosh, yeah.
Like over and above the experience of poverty.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's something I've thought about for a while. I've never been quite open about my experiences of poverty growing up, and we as a family, and I'm the oldest of my brothers as well, and I feel like me to a greater extent, we interacted a lot with the welfare system and the job centre and all that sort of stuff, and I think you got so much stuff in the media about like capping or dismantling even further the welfare state, and obviously it's all the poor people's fault, and blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about like children and families' well-being in the context of interaction with like the welfare system, and kind of like weaving psychology in my own experience. But there's some other really cool stuff on that day, like No More Exclusions is talking about kind of their approach.
Wow.
Shout out to Luca.
Yes, I saw Luca.
Or what Luca was my thesis supervisee student, and Luca is going to be talking about his research exploring trans and autistic young people's experiences of school. Just like what a research project.
Huge fan. If anybody is thinking about going to see Luca's work, go see him present. Absolutely, you will not be disappointed.
And this EPMC day as well is it's like pay what you can afford. Which is, I mean, their key thing is access and thinking about the various like inequalities that might prevent access to professional spaces. So yeah, I mean, if money is an issue, don't worry. As far as I understand from the team that are organising it, I'm not organising it, but I think you pay what you can. That's the key thing, which I just think is a really great kind of outlook. Really great outlook.
It's an incredible event. I'm so glad that it's going on. And hey, you get the chance to see Luca and Dan and pay what you can. What else could you do with a Friday that's better than that? Go enjoy.
Exactly. It's online as well. So just accessibility, like really up there. So hopefully, I was going to say see some of our listeners. I haven't seen any of our listeners. So any of you listening, say hi if you listen to the podcast on that Friday as well. I'll see you there. I think I'm talking at like 10 a.m. So yeah, that'll be fun. What did you get up to? So we last saw each other on the 17th of December.
I know, it's been like nearly 2 weeks, Dan.
I know.
I've been bereft.
What have you been up to? What have you been filling your festive time with?
We went to go see family, some extended family who very kindly invite us every year, and they are like found family to me. When we left, there were tears in me. I was in tears because I was like, it's so lovely to be around like family, essentially found family. And I got to tell you that at one point someone said something and I was like, Dan likes that, and they were like, who is Dan? And someone across the room was like, it's Cora's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super.
Work.
Clearly, I had been talking about you too much.
My ears always burning. Definitely.
Yeah, that's why. You weren't really sick. It was just that your ears were burning real
hard. That's nice. But yeah, like the time together is like, I guess there's a lot of pressure on the season, isn't there, often? But actually the time together and that just being, I guess there is pressure, but I feel like if you're in those groups that are meaningful, you can actually just relax into it as well and just have really nice quality time together, which is really lovely.
There were lots of games, and we did play 3-2-1.
What's 3-2-1? Oh, the game that Fee spoke about.
She spoke about that game. We absolutely played it. It's really good fun.
Yeah.
Thoroughly recommended.
Nice.
And it, because a lot of people were drinking, it didn't go super well. Like, we weren't very good at the game, but it was real good fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I in the midst of recovery, went to London. That's where my family live, in southeast London. So I went to see my parents and brothers. And I mean, like even though I was ill, the hotel and trains were paid for and non-refundable, so it was going to happen. We were definitely going to go to London. And yeah, we played loads of games as well. My parents had this, oh man, I can't remember what the game is called. It was this big spinny thing that the whole premise of the game... Now, am I mixing two games up? Yeah, I'm mixing two games up.
On the edge of my seat, I was like, Twister.
No. The game I'm actually thinking of is like you, as the person who was guessing, you had to choose something on a card that you couldn't see. So it had like 5 words. So it might, and they're totally unrelated. It might be like rainforest, castle, spaghetti bolognese, and everybody had these little like whiteboard boards, and you had to write one word on it to help the other person know what their word was that they'd chosen. But if you wrote the same word as someone else, both of you were out. So suddenly your like range of words was depleted. So for example, if they said if they said number 2, which was castle, as the 4 of you who were playing, you'd have to write maybe like knights, moat, fortification. If someone else wrote moat, then both of the moats were out, so you'd only be left with like 2 words. Yeah, that was very cool, very kind of cooperative, creative. So it was good, but I like a real competitive game. I want to win. I don't.
Oh yeah.
these cooperative fun games, yeah, they're all lovely, but actually let's get down to competition.
You're super competitive.
Yes, 100%.
We did play one card game that was called Shithead, and that when somebody loses Shithead, everybody points at them and calls them Shithead. The most competitive game I've ever seen, and I felt very weird about it. I'm not going to lie to you. Not in my nature.
Are you not a competitive person?
I'm really not. Absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to lie. So there's a game that basically is a trumps and tricks game. It's a card game. You win tricks, and there's a trump suit, and we were playing, and you have to like name how many points you're going to get, how many of these kind of tricks you're going to win in the round. And I'd put 2, and a friend of mine who I feel a deep kinship with, that we only see each other a couple of times a year, and she'd put 2 down, and she'd had 1 point, and I'd got my 2 points, and I realized that I had the power by the virtue of the trump and the cards that I had. I knew that she didn't have a diamond, and she could trump this round if I put a diamond down as the starting suit, basically setting her up to win. Or I could screw her over, because I knew that, so I could completely screw her over. You know what I did, Dan?
Screw her over?
I made her win.
Oh my god, we are the complete opposite then.
I looked at her, and then I did the thing, and she did the thing and won, and then she looked at me and she mouthed "thank you," and I was like, wow. I gave her a little wink, and I'm not gonna lie, it's one of those moments, Dan, that just fills my goddamn heart. I live for those moments of connection and intimacy. The road that I'm on, I will lose a game, Dan, if I get a hug out of it. I'm telling you. I will pay money for hugs.
I have to
give away my car for
when
hugs.
You're describing that game situation, what I'm actually doing is refraining from just pointing at the screen and saying "weak, weak." I'm not. I'm highly competitive. I mean, shout out to Emily, who's another part of the EdSci team. Who, one of my best friends, and we played badminton together for years, and she is also highly competitive. So, yeah,
really,
yeah. Like the two of us together in a sports game is like, Rich would just be on the sidelines, like, it's a game. Like, shut up, it's not a game.
It's not a game. It's life or death, Rich.
I mean, sometimes my competitive. So I will also, even if I win like a game, like let's say badminton, if I go and play badminton with Rich, even if I win, if I don't perceive that he's been trying hard enough, that won't be enough of the. It's a hollow win. What's the point of winning if you're not trying hard enough?
Even the victory is not sufficient if you have not earned it.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm awful. It's this. Yeah. Hey. So competition.
Yeah, this is why I don't play football or something, because if I played football and the enemy team saw me defending and, one of the attackers stopped to hug me, I would let the ball in. I
love that you call them the enemy team as well. That's like bringing in the D&D vibes, like it's the enemy, not the opposition. They're the enemy. So maybe you are actually super competitive. It's just lurking under the surface. Yeah. You're perceiving them. We talked about social identity and identity fusion. You're just seeing them as like the enemy, which is
enemy team. Hey, yeah, I just. But then maybe that's what the nature of this episode is, right? Like, one of the focus that we wanted to draw on for this episode was about adult friendships, and I think you and I are both on something of a journey around adult friendship. You want to talk us through the journey that you've been on, the journey that you are on now toward friendship?
Yeah, I guess it's something. So when we come to do the podcast, we always have like there's a pre-intro that listeners you don't hear, which is where we talk about all the stuff that we wouldn't talk about on the podcast. So that's where the real juicy stuff is. But that's we catch up and stuff like that. And one of the things that I think we've both talked about over time is how maybe it's our stages of life, like friendships change. People move away, drift, life events happen, how friendships can mean different things to people from different groups. And also, I guess we've talked about how difficult it can feel to make new friends, certainly as an adult, but, and I guess we'll get into some of this in the podcast. But it came up enough for us to both think maybe this is something we should do an episode on, about adult friendships. What are they? How, why, what gets in the way, what facilitates? Yeah, is that a good summary?
Yeah, I think that's a great summary, for sure. And I think the more that I have been reading about it, the more I have realized that challenges with adult friendship are very common, that people experience them a lot, especially, interestingly, in their 30s and 40s. I think the literature shows that, as you get older, your friendships deepen and you get more of them as you get older. And you have more of them when you're younger, although the sort of loneliness isn't is still pretty high in your youth. Possibly, I was reading some articles that were sort of saying possibly because though you have a lot of friendships, you're more mobile. You move between locations and jobs and educational institutions, and that movement means that your friendships don't necessarily last over a long period of time. So that kind of changing nature of friendships makes it harder to kind of feel less lonely. But 30s and 40s is like the worst time because you have a dip in friendship numbers and you get a bit lonelier.
And I think like one of the things you asked a second ago was about like that personal story, and part of the stimulus for because I talked about this with you a lot, and part of the stimulus for that was my personal experience of so I have lots of my close friends are straight women who are having families and children, and so certainly over the past like 4 or 5 years that I've felt the effect of those changes, where in their lives priorities can change and shift, and having a child takes a huge amount of resource, emotional, time, logistical, all that sort of stuff, and so part of the effect that I've experienced is it's not unavailability, but it's kind of like a changing nature in the friendship dynamic, and I haven't had over time many, I guess I haven't had many LGBT friends. Most of my friends are straight and cis, and so I've definitely in the past year made a real effort to kind of make two things: more male friends, more friends who are guys, because I just don't have any. I've got one or two, I think, and then also more LGBT friends. And I think there must be something in there about shared identity, and I think we can talk about that. We talk about friendships of different groups, but I wanted to read out this. The thing that really got me on it was this Guardian opinion article by Carolyn Würfel, who this was kind of my stimulus, and I wanted to read out part of that article as to what really got me thinking about it. So Carolyn says, as an adult whose usual habitat is a large European city, when I meet friends now, it starts with a text that goes something like, "Hey, how are you? Would love to see you. Maybe we can grab dinner or drinks." Then the struggle to find a date. It's a messy process. Days pass, sometimes weeks. Finally, if we are lucky, the day arrives and we meet at a restaurant or a bar somewhere public where we're expected to behave, sit properly, engage in polite chat. We update each other on our projects, gossip a little, sigh, complain about circumstances at home or work, and then we part ways. And then she goes on to say, but times have changed. As mature 21st century adults, nearly everything has to be scheduled in advance. We meet when we're well composed. If we're not feeling up to it, we just cancel. No one knocks on anyone's door spontaneously anymore. That would be crazy, insane even. We no longer play or fool around. We don't hang out for hours without a plan. And reading that really connected into maybe a sense of what I felt I was missing or perhaps wanted from friendships. This idea of God, yeah. When did we stop just hanging out?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a rare thing. I think part of the drive toward queer friendships is because queer folk have kids less frequently, in my experience, right? And so it's easier with other queer people to be in relationship where children aren't a factor. I mean, another thing that strikes me is that it's quite possible that parents who have children also experience loneliness because of the challenges that that
Definitely.
having a child creates for maintaining friendships, I would imagine. We are going to go and see a friend on Saturday. He's got kids who are in their mid-teens, And we said we'd drop in. We're going to drop in. I don't know we haven't got any plans. We're just going to hang out for the afternoon and then come home and play D&D. But like, I can't remember the last time I did that. You know, I just knock on somebody's door, Dan.
I know.
Knock on somebody's door.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world in which we would just be like, hey.
Hi.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Was I expecting you?
Exactly. And I remember it like, so playing out was a massive feature of my childhood. And, summer holidays, from day one, 10 a.m. I'd be out of the house, like on my bike in the local area from like until basically, you know, the rule was like when it's dark. So, you know, in July and August, that'd be like 10 p.m. And I absolutely would, like when I was 9, 10, 11, just go and knock on my friend's door. You know, maybe their mum would answer the door, you know, is Marlon going to come out to play? Or, you know, and you know, sometimes the mum or, you know, whoever was at home would say, oh, not yet, but come in. you know, and then we'd just like chill indoors for hours.
Tea.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. Do you think there's kind of like a media, like, because I was talking about this with Rich and the idea that growing up, you know, when you watch sitcoms and soaps and shows, it almost felt like aspirational, you know, well, what you do with friends is you go for drinks or you get lunch. And then it's kind of like, oh no, have we bought into that narrative, like maybe a master narrative of what friendships are, and lost some of the stuff that's like completely low demand, low stakes, but high quality of just, you know, just going to someone's house. I think when I definitely remember as a kid, friends from school in the local area just knocking. And my parents were kind of fine with it as well. And lots of their parents and carers were fine with it too. But maybe there's a personal thing. How would you feel if, for example, on Saturday, so what is it? Saturday the 3rd of January.
Are you going to do this, Dan?
No.
Are you going to come to my house?
But how would you feel if someone did just turn up and were like at your door, knocked on your door, I just thought we could hang out today?
I think I would love it if that became normalized, because I feel like it's not just a question of habituation, like how frequently people come, but it's also like right now it's such an event that it becomes about hosting, right? Like I want to make sure I've got, you know, the drinks that they like. I got to make sure that I've got like food that they're going to want to eat, and make sure that the place is clean enough for them to have somewhere to sit, and you know, doesn't reflect poorly on, I mean, be straight with you, Kaz is more focused on this than I am. I'm not. I don't mind people coming over. I have people coming over, and the place is like, it's not bad. It's just lived in, you know. And I'm okay with that. But Kaz will want to clean everything to make sure it's nice for people coming over, which I get. But it does mean that it is an event. So I would love it if people came over and just knocked on the door and were like, "Hey." Like the most fun thing I did recently was go to that pub quiz, and that was literally a friend of mine being like, "Hey, you know, we're going on Saturday. We need someone else for the numbers," which is not the most ringing endorsement of my friendship, but I was like, yes, of course. And I went. It was really good fun, and we had a great time. And you know, that was spontaneous. Just let's go hang out. You know, it's a pub quiz. Let's just go hang out.
I mean, so one of the things I've done in the past year is so there's like a Bumble for Friends app, which
have you done this?
Yeah. I've done that.
How interesting. I'm dead interested.
And I have been really explicit. Like, it has forced me to be more explicit about, like, for example, what I'm looking for in friendship. So I have been. So
talk me through the rudiments. Like, this is Bumble BFF, is that right?
Bumble BFF, yeah. Which I think, So it's kind of.
So you make a profile, much like dating.
Yeah, and you say something about you, and you know, put a couple of pictures up, and it's kind of all friend orientated as opposed to dating oriented. It's interesting that it's kind of like through a dating mechanic. It's the same sort of thing.
You get matched, so you're swiping right and swiping left on. Yeah. So I was reading yesterday a piece of research that was picking out on what people do in dating. They tend to make two quick snap decisions, one on attractiveness and one on social context. And they tend to swipe right on people is swiping right the good right? Is that the good way?
Yes.
Yeah, so swipe right on attractive people who are not flaunting their wealth, who have some kind of positive social context. And so the question for me is, on what basis do you make the snap decision about whether you might be able to be friends with someone or not?
So, on Bumble BFF, the friends one, if you scroll down to the bottom, it says where the location is. And
that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. So it says, for example, it will say Bristol City, or it will say, Somerset, or, lots of the surrounding areas. So a major factor for me has been location, because I think one of the things that I would like is maybe more kind of, I would like that idea of like spontaneity and hanging out, and maybe sort of consistency and availability as well. I think, maybe that's something that's important for me right now. There are many times where I can just be quite available, and that's something that I'd like to experience. So location is a key one. That does mean you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And I guess another factor is completedness of profile. Like, have they said the sorts of things, have they said they're into like board games, sci-fi, walking in nature, that sort of stuff? Because that's the stuff that, like, I guess might indicate, and maybe this is really wrong, but like might indicate shared interests, shared values, shared preferences of activity. So it's those sorts of things, I guess, that have driven me swiping right. But it feels really weird because you're still just judging.
Sounds weird.
People. Yeah. Now, in terms of like what actually leads to like some sort of friendship contact, I think I've been like trying the app out for like 7 or 8 months, and I think I've kind of met up with like maybe 2 or 3 potential new friends. So that's a long time. That feels like a low hit rate.
It's not a huge hit rate. And did any of those like lead to something? I don't know what the lead to is when it comes to friendship. I guess it's very strange. Like, I don't know what did it lead to a relationship, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
But also, is part of your difficulty in like finding like that we actually don't really think as adults much about how to make friends and how to do this and what a friendship is.
Yeah, how do you go from acquaintance to friend? Because you've matched on an app, you meet up, you're definitely acquaintances now. Like, I guess even in dating though, right? Like that move from that to something else maybe it does have more explicit steps. You can talk to people about what it is that you want. You can say, hey, do you want to get a coffee? The subtext is clearer in dating than it is in friendship, I would think, because it can't be like, hey, do you want to come back to my place? We can hang out and play Split Fiction on the PS5. Right. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
We can Netflix and chill, but I do mean literally.
Yeah. And I think there are, I was, pre our episodes, I always chat things through with Rich, and we were saying the same thing yesterday, that like in romantic relationships, there does seem to be a much more predefined and accessible kind of vocabulary and lexicon to think about stages. We're not casual anymore. We're serious. We're not dating. We're boyfriend and girlfriend, or we're boyfriend and boyfriend, or we're partners, or we're exclusive, or I know other relationship types exist. Not just sort of monogamous. But I guess there's more. Yeah. There's more. There's just more rehearsal of those sorts of conversations. Whereas I don't think we would say to a potential new friend, are we friends now rather than acquaintances? For
me, in my relationships, I know I go very deep very quickly in friendships. Probably would in romantic relationships too, to be fair. Kaz has always joked that I fall in love very easily. It's very true. And that's the case for friendship as well. Like, I fall in love very easily in friendship. I get very deep very fast, and if somebody invites me into intimacy, I will consume it like a good bagel. Like, I'll dive right in. Like, and so I have to be a bit careful not to, all of the kind of same rules I think apply, that you have to be careful not to overwhelm a potential new partner. Don't be too needy. Don't move ahead of the stage of the relationship is in. wait for them to make the first move at particular key junctures so that you don't accidentally step ahead and become too much. You have to be prepared to get your heart broken.
Of course, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. It feels really important. Now, I know what we're trying not to do is make this an episode about loneliness or, I guess the loneliness crisis or epidemic that we often hear about or read about in the media. But it's hard, I guess, not to kind of brush up against it when we're talking about adult friendships, because I think lots of research does demonstrate that lots of adults do have social contact and they do have people that they see and they have multiple friendship groups, yet still say that they feel lonely. And I guess that's the difference between sort of the objective experience of being alone, like nobody's around, versus the subjective experience of loneliness. And I just wonder, is that because in our kind of modern world, interactions can feel rushed?
And I was reading a piece from Medium, I think, written by Rachel Bonifacio, and she talks about adult friendships in her 20s, in her 30s, and then as she's entering now her 40s, she talks about the cost of like how our like productive modern lives mean that we're driven toward particular things, right? We're driven toward the house or the car or the kind of the children, or we're driven toward something that we want to kind of acquire, the job, the promotion, you're in your 20s, you're just starting you're getting your education complete, you're thinking about, your first job and career, and in your 30s, you're thinking about that promotion, then your 40s, you're still looking for that big goal, that promotion, that family, that house, that whatever it is. And I think the more of those things you acquire that you want, the more responsibilities you acquire, right?
Yeah.
The harder it is to make space for friendship in a modern world, which to my mind is obviously like, I mean, going to an anti-capitalist rant, I just feel like it's silly. It's just so silly that we have built this world in the way that we have, when, what's the largest ever study of happiness has been running for like 85 years.
Wow.
This longest ever study of happiness has been running for 85 years. I think JFK was in this original cohort. It started in 1938. And they talk about like, what does the longest ever study of happiness tell us about happiness? And they've written a book, which I have not yet finished, and I will. And when I do, I'll talk about it. But the cliff notes are, it's relationships. It's how we foster and maintain our close, intimate friendships that keep us happy. They're, at time one, friendship quality predicts happiness at time two kind of stuff. So if we know this, and I don't think anybody is going to be, I would be surprised if someone in the audience is like, wait, I thought it was millionaires. Like, I thought it was a Honda Civic that would make me happy. Everybody in the audience, I would imagine, is sitting there thinking like, I am. Well, bloody obviously, right? Like,
yeah.
And yet, like you say, we've kind of, we're having to wedge friendship in to modern life. It's not fundamental to it. But I think,
again, the capitalist idea, friendship thrives. Maybe this is my view. Friendship thrives, I think, on that, like low stakes, repeated, unproductive time that you spend together, which is like exactly the kind of time a capitalist system does not want or devalues.
Yes.
Time where you're doing nothing, you're not being productive, you're not buying, you're not spending, oh my gosh, that can't compute. And so I feel like that is that why that we get this kind of sense of like friendship happening increasingly in paid spaces like events and cafes, and then how does that interrupt the flow or the fluency of like the relational dynamic, which contributes to the happiness you were talking about? Because I think I feel like I've certainly like had these thoughts that if there are not struggles, not struggles like within in a relational struggle within the friendship, but friendship struggles of like trying to maintain them, then it becomes, or it feels very much like, oh, I need to get better at scheduling, and I need to I need to just like try harder, or I need better boundaries, rather than like actually our social structures are making connection really difficult because the family, in inverted commas, is so isolated, that sense of like nuclear family rather than perhaps more communal child rearing approaches, that our homes are now exclusive spaces that we don't necessarily or readily, we don't leave the door open, whether that be about neighborhood safety or connection with our neighbors. And so it becomes this kind of really difficult relationship to navigate. And I mean, what we were talking, I think in the notes, one of the things we talked about was friendflation, like the rising cost of maintaining friendships, because we're not using those spaces necessarily of like, come and hang out in my kitchen. Yeah, it's pretty bloody messy, but you don't need to worry about that. I'll just make you a tea or something. It's this idea of like, we're going to go and see this exhibition or this gallery or this cafe, or now you go out for like 2 coffees and 2 pastries in Bristol and it's like £18.
Especially for disabled communities, that's a real pickle. I'm going to Manchester in a couple of weeks. 2 Tuesdays time, going to Manchester Uni to go and present, which I love. The University of Manchester, I absolutely love going to spend time with trainees there. I'm going to really enjoy it. The night before, they put me up in a hotel, which I'm really appreciative of because it's like 4 hours away. And I'm going to arrive at like 6. And I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do for the evening? I don't really know anybody in Manchester who isn't connected to the course. And I could for sure do something where I invite somebody from the course out to go and do a thing. And I'm reluctant to do it. Is it because I'm a bit ashamed, or am I like, is it putting myself out there? And I'm like, I don't know. I feel weird. I feel weird about doing it. God damn. Didn't say this on the podcast. Now I'm going to have to do it. This
is the advert. Hey, any on that Manchester course team, Cora on that Monday night is up for it. Like, let's go.
There is a lesbian bar which is within walking distance, and I was thinking about going there as long as I get kicked out being trans. But like, I think that would be. That might be quite fun to go to a lesbian bar and go and see if I can make friends and meet people and, invite people into intimacy, friendship.
Yeah.
Although they're in Manchester, so probably it will be a one-off.
I guess there's like, one of the things that I was thinking about in prepping for this episode was, and it seems really obvious, again, one of those sort of, things that you're, like you said, listeners are probably like, well, obviously, but that idea that I guess friendship doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Because I was thinking about, like, what does friendship mean to different groups? And one of the groups, I was thinking about LGBTQ people, because studies, show that friendships play a crucial role in well-being for queer people. For especially because they can provide some of what you described, like acceptance, validation, a sense of community belonging that might be lacking elsewhere. And adult friendships for LGBTQ people can be like that, connecting to that sense of like chosen family. But then I was thinking, like, does it differ? And I found this study from 2023 from Natasha Peterson and colleagues that used data from the American Association of Retired Persons Foundation's Loneliness and the Social Connection Survey of adults over 45. And they found that that a highly diverse social network they hypothesized would be a good thing. And it was true for heterosexual adults, but not necessarily true for LGBT adults. So they found that a highly diverse social network, but one lacking in deeper supportive members, wouldn't ameliorate feelings of overall loneliness. And I guess that might connect into like why friendships might be different for example, LGBT people. You said earlier about, perhaps less likely to have children. And so actually what friendships might mean, like for us as we age, is like what we would value from that is support that perhaps may have come from, for example, children within that kind of like traditional family structure. And they found support. They had a hypothesis that support diversity, like the types of support you get offered, would depend on sexual orientation. And they found that relative to heterosexual people, support diversity mattered much more to LGBT adults than it did to heterosexual people in the survey. I guess perhaps because they had maybe, much more targeted like areas of support from their children or their grandchildren, which might not be something that I'm not, obviously, LGBT people have families, but I guess in terms of frequency. So I thought that was really interesting that, like, if you're having, if you're seeking friendships, for example, is it necessary to kind of spend some time thinking about what might different people want from these friendships? Is it as, for example, as an, and I know this is like adults over 45, my older LGBT people have an explicit orientation to kind of, a key part of friendship is support seeking. Whereas that might not be the same based on Peterson's study for heterosexual people. And if you're not thinking about that explicitly, about what people want from that friendship, what effect does the mismatch have, if you're not being explicit? Because all this stuff might be quite subtle and hidden. And so does the LGBT person end up thinking, well, I'm not getting much support? Does the heterosexual person in the friendship end up thinking like, God, they're really demanding? Whereas they might be seeking different things.
Yes. Yeah, it's really interesting that LGBT, I guess that's probably the case for everyone, right? I do love the idea that that LGBT people create kind of webs. Reminds me of the book Disability Justice, great book if anybody's interested in reading, that's about essentially queer and trans, black and indigenous people of color who are disabled in the United States in particular, but people building care webs by like reaching out and creating a relationship with each other and then relying on each other to keep each other okay. That friendship is actually critical for survival for some communities. I feel like a lot of this is about opportunity, right? Where do you meet people? Because I feel like I've been thinking about the most, like the times when I felt happiest in finding new friends recently. I think things like when I went to jury duty over the summer, when I did hand cycling over the summer, when I went to Vienna, when I went to kind of meet people in California, not because of where they are, but just by the virtue of like places where I have been on my own, where I've had to make friendships because there's no one with me and I have to, or I'm alone, right?
Yeah.
And in those circumstances, when the chips are down socially, I'm pretty good at that stuff. Like I can do it. I just don't very frequently, or rather the opportunity doesn't arise in my daily life. I have to force it. I have to find it.
I don't know, maybe the explicitness is helpful. And if we were more explicit as adults about our sense of availability and, when I say to friends, call me anytime. I'm not saying that flippantly. I genuinely mean just give me a call. I'm the sort of person that loves that. I would, for listeners, if you know me, pop round. Literally, I would love people just randomly turning up. That's like the dream. Just randomly turn up and we'll just hang out. That's it's. I guess the explicitness I think can help. Because it strikes me that lots of people, as we said earlier, lots of people have social contact, have friends, but are kind of sat there thinking, I'm on the phone on the train again. I see this person on the train every single day. Why aren't we friends? We get on the same train.
I met a woman on my way abroad. I was on my own and I was at a bus stop and I created a set of rules that, because I have symptom management plans all over the place. Yeah. And I created a set of rules for socialization, just the same kind of idea. And there were just 2 rules. Meet as many people as possible and accept every invitation. And I now need to expand it. And I don't know how, and who in this conversation will get me there. But I met a woman, 2 women actually, were heading abroad to, I think she was on her way to the mountains of France to go and see her son and see if she could find a property there because she wanted to be closer to him. And we had a bit of a conversation on the way up. And then I got on the National Express, never saw them again, except that wheeling around Winchester, this woman came up to me and she was like, hey, I was like, hi. hi. And it took me a beat to realize, it took me a good beat, because she recognized who I was, because I'm in a freaking wheelchair. Like, and she's like, hey, how are you? And I was like, hey, how was France? Did you find a house? And I could see the look on her face was one of like, I cannot believe you remembered that conversation. And there was connection. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed it, and I felt fulfilled by it for a moment. And I didn't say what the next thing needs to be. What is step 3 on Cora's plan? Because accepting every invitation relies on other people inviting you to things, which is not ideal. There's got to be a sort of, what is the third thing? An invitation to something, to friendship, to... Thing is, Dan, I would do this wrong. I know I would do it wrong. The thing that I would do is like, hey, do you want to be friends? Maybe that's right. Maybe that is exactly how I would do it.
That's what kids do, isn't it?
Yeah, like, hey, do you want... There's swings. Do you want to sit on the swings?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. There's got to be a third step, Dan, on this road to love.
I think, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the explicitness, there's something about the explicitness for me. And if I can say to someone, I've really enjoyed chatting. Do you want to hang out more? And they can receive that with the openness that, I guess, if you can say that explicitly and someone can receive that in the way that it's intended, with affirmation and positivity, isn't that itself a sign that, like, oh, there's a friendship bud here? You know, if they're going to interpret that as like, oh, that's a bit weird, then maybe that's not the person.
And you have to be ready to get your heart broken.
Right. They may well say yes and never contact you again, or they may avoid the answer, but
they just ghost you.
Yeah. There's got to be something like precious in the explicitness of being able to say, like, I really enjoy when we hang out. And do you want to grab a coffee next week? Like, let's make the plan now, because if it doesn't, we could put it off. And there's me reverting right back to a friendship scenario being going to get a coffee, rather than like low demand, non-economically active hanging out.
It's really tricky though, isn't it? Like, because like the third space doesn't exist otherwise, right? Because you're like, hey, what are you doing next Tuesday? Do you want to come over to my flat? Like, whoa, we can watch Stranger Things together. Do you want to? It takes things to a very high level very quickly.
Yeah. And I guess we don't have that. That's our parents and carers, I guess, to some extent, sometimes mediate that for some of us. That it's not often, even when you're young, I guess, that you make a friend on day 1 and then they're around your house on day 2. I guess sometimes there's an observation of, okay, well, this friendship between these two seems like it's been going on for a while, so maybe now it's time to invite them round.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. Like, when you're kids, you are in the same place as people every day.
Every day, yeah.
And you just, like, this woman, it would need me to do something artificial for us to bump into each other again, because I have never bumped into her ever since. Maybe she's like, I know where this woman goes on her wheelchairs now, I'm going to walk my dog somewhere else. And she's gone to go walk her dog on another road entirely. But
because it had me, we talked a little bit about ethnicity, and we talked a little about friendships for LGBTQ people, and I guess in there as well, and you've talked about your experiences of MS, and there's also an aspect of what friendship means to, and when I say disabled people, I don't mean as a monolith. I appreciate the variety.
We are the one.
Every single kind of, all under the group.
I will speak for my kind.
Absolutely. But I guess friendship is structurally constrained, right, as well?
Yeah.
You talked about access to third space, accessible spaces, and even like emotional labour is unevenly distributed. The Government Disability, Loneliness and Relationships Thematic Report in 2025, found that for many disabled people, and for any disabled listeners, I'm sure this will, like, again, no surprise, for many disabled people, management of their health and the impairment itself is a priority. The time, energy, and financial elements of managing health has a significant impact on disabled people's social capital. And it's like, right, unless we have the support structures to allow, whether that be accessible spaces, third spaces, free spaces, support structures for people's lives to run as smoothly as they possibly can. I guess the structures that we have constrain friendships for example, disabled people. I mean, nearly every article that this review looked at, touched on the lack of autonomy due to barriers that disabled people face every day.
It speaks so much to me as I speak for all disabled people. I am a wheelchair user, which is, I think, the biggest. Because before I use the wheelchair, when I don't use the wheelchair, it doesn't, there's lots of challenges that fatigue will throw in the mix where you're because on the rules, the third rule, which I didn't mention, is rest when you need to, because if I don't do that, then I will regret it, because I need enough rest to be able to reconstitute enough spoons to be able to manage whatever's coming the next day. So there is that. But the wheelchair creates a whole list of problems.
Right.
When I'm going to Manchester and I'm thinking of going to this lesbian bar, which I gotta be straight with you, I've never been to before, and I think it could be really weird, and it could be that I end up sitting at the bar and drinking a martini and then going home on my own, which I'm going home on my own is kind of the intent, but I mean, without having made friends. But I will do my very best. I will create more rules. But I was looking at it, I'm like, it is 1 mile exactly from my hotel, and that is right at the limit of my walking ability. If I get there and can sit for an hour or more, I think I can just about manage it. But there may be, when I arrive, I am not going to look sober. Right. I'm going to look like I can't get my feet under me because I can't. But if I arrive in the Rocinante, then it's a whole thing, right? It's a whole thing. How do you, if I'm sitting at the bar and I'm going to say hi to somebody and try and make friends, that's fine. If I'm in the Rocinante and I try to do that, it's a whole other gig, totally different gig. People will be it's a lesbian bar, right? People will be people are looking to make friends or looking to make love, I assume. I don't really, I know, people go to lesbian bars to hook up apart from anything else, right? And also to make friends, and also to kind of spend time as a community and all the rest of the good stuff that happens. If you're in a wheelchair, nobody sees you as a potential partner for a second. When I'm standing, I go from people will be oh, she's kind of cute. If I'm sitting in the chair, it's I didn't even know she could date, really, really quick. And so going up to somebody and saying hi, they will, if I'm standing or walking or sitting on a bar stool, people will be is this person hitting on me? Is this person somebody I like and can see myself is this weird or is this okay? And a bunch of other things. But if I'm in the wheelchair, they'd be how much help can I give this person? What does this person need and how can I help them? Yeah. Which is not what cool. Yeah. So breaks me. It really does. I don't mean to rant too hard here, but it messes with your self-esteem. This
thematic report published by the government said, clearly said that when they were reviewing the literature, and it was thinking about disabled people in a whole, but they kind of categorized it into various types of disability. But I think they said one of the findings across the board was that friendships are frequently inhibited for disabled people because of others' expectations and beliefs, not what the person wants. So this quote here really stuck out to me, that they found that reviewing the literature, that relationships that disabled people tend to form and maintain outside of family, health and support networks were mostly homophilic. So, birds of a feather flock together, disabled people friends with disabled people. And I have seen that in practice so many times as well, about, children, or an assumption from adults that disabled children want more friends with disabled children. And I guess there's something there about community. And the review said these communities provide a safe space based on a shared understanding. Great. This provision is based on the premise that disabled people are seen, understood and feel connected. More often, they're actively disenfranchised from social culture, and it's evident that this is not a preference for homophilic relationships, but a result of exclusion and disconnection from those not facing the barriers of disability. And it went on to say, disabled people's preference for friendships and relationships are largely similar to non-disabled people, obviously, which is to spend time with people with shared interests and activities. And when disabled people are given the same resources and access, their relationships and networks are very similar to those of non-disabled people. And it's just kind of like that view of, well, of course you'll be friends together. You all have the same experiences. It's like, okay, but do they like each other? Do these two people like each other? They have nothing in common. It doesn't matter. But okay, they're both autistic. Great. But they don't have any shared interest. There's no how are we thinking about access and resource to ensure that people's networks and experiences are pretty similar? It's this kind of, where's it getting put on? And I think that some of that sounds like that speaks to your experience of, how can we possibly help this person? It's like, no, I just want to talk about Stranger Things. I don't need your help.
Yeah, I'm okay with being flirted with. Like, I'll flirt with someone, but ain't nobody flirting with me in the chair. Like, the Rocinante is like a cold shower on any potential kind of. Yeah. I can't imagine. There was a Redditor who I read a good deal of Reddit because the disability subreddit is so good, and she was saying that she had acquired her disability, was now a wheelchair user, and the phrase that she articulated, which I wrote a post about because it touched me so heavily, she said, "Who will even want me now?" And that broke my heart. It's so much like the experience, for sure. Who will even want me now? Can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
So there's a study that I was looking at from the American Survey Center. It was asking people in the States about whether they had recently told a friend that they loved them. They found that of women, about half say that they've told a friend that they love them within the past week. Just shy, 49%. And only 1/4 of men say that they have done the same thing, that they've told a friend that they loved them in the last week.
Wow.
And I was going to ask, when was the last time you told a friend you loved them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually quite surprised because those numbers are way higher than I would have thought. Like,
I know, right? I mean, it is the US, so different cultural context.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. The last time I told a friend that I love them, I can't even remember. Which is terrible. Like, yeah, wow. I don't know.
I remember the last time I did is such a rare experience that I had it. I was working, and a good friend of mine was like, we were just chatting on Discord, and we ended up just creating like a Spotify like jam session where we were just adding, like, I know what the next song is we need to add to this jam session while we were both like working. And we were just there for like 4 hours or something, just like I was writing reports and he was doing whatever he was doing. We were just listening to music, and at the end he was like, "I love you, Cora," and I was like, "I love you too." And that moment will stay with me for some time. But that, I think, is such a rare experience. I think that is my drive. I'm dead interested in what listeners think about when you was the last time you told a friend you loved them, but whether this is like something that we can all drive towards. I want to get to a place where I am one of those 49% of women, who say, in the last week I told a friend that I loved them.
Yeah. This is 100%.
People.
This is now my target for the next week, to tell some
for
of my
the
friends.
next week. Wow. You don't hold back.
No. This week I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it's New Year's Eve. It's 1 p.m. on New Year's Eve. I'm going to tell at least 2 friends by the end of 2025 that I love them, because that is 100%. Because that's what we're talking about, right? Like, they are absolutely my close friends that I love. Like, and I wonder, is that a linguistic thing? I don't know. Listeners who speak other languages, do other languages have different words that allow us to express the depth of feeling that can come with close friendships? I feel like in English we have love, and that's it. But of course, there are such varieties of love, and yeah, maybe we need to get more comfortable expressing that. So that's my I've got a deadline, 11:59 tonight.
There's me, like, I'm going to build up to this over months. I'm going to find friends that I want to tell and build it to a point. You're like, in the next 11 hours, I'm going to tell 2 people
100%. Yeah. Hey, there was an EP, Simon Rowe, shout out if you're listening. He did lots of training with me in my service. Like I used to work in years ago, and the last slide of the training around cognitive behavioral therapy and approaches was something that was like, if you wait until you feel confident, you'll be waiting forever. And that just really kind of like, if I waited until like I feel like when is the right time, I'm just going to jump straight in there. So Cora, love you.
I love you too, Dan.
Great. I hope whatever you do this evening is ace. Actually, you could go to bed. Who cares? It's New Year's Eve.
That's ace. Well,
that is ace. Yeah. We've got some friends coming over for some,
wonderful.
Like low demand. Like I'm just like going to cook something basic. We're going to play some games and just hang out. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow, I hope you have a lovely new year. I hope our listeners have a lovely evening, and look forward to more episodes in 2026.
Absolutely. Ciao.
See you soon.